These are our way too early NFL power rankings heading into 2024. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Forward Progress HQ, part of the Hammer Betting Network. I'm your host, Jason Cooper, alongside Hitman. And today, we're going to be ranking all 32 teams, and you're going to tell us if you agree with these rankings in the comment section down below. So if you like today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and comment where we went wrong, because we're definitely going to get stuff wrong this early in the season. Let's start with the highest tier. Let's start with the top and move our way down. So we're going to start off with the Super Bowl contenders. So you have 8 teams here in the Super Bowl contender tier. Hitman, why don't you tell us who those teams are?
Yeah, remember, this isn't in any particular order. It's just us randomly playing the 8 teams out, laying them out there. But we got Kansas City, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Houston, Buffalo, San Fran, Detroit, and Philadelphia.
All right, I like this tier right here, but I have 2 teams that instantly stick out to me. Number 1 is Philadelphia, and number 2 is Houston. 2 teams that seem to be last year on opposite trajectories, right? You got Houston, who really vastly outperformed their expectations last year, and then Philadelphia, who kind of fell below. Jalen Hurts did not look as good as he did from 2 years ago. So why don't you tell us a little bit about why you have both those teams in that tier here instead of having them, I guess, in the playoff team tier below them?
Yeah, Philadelphia, I just think that the roster is really good. And I mean, I know that last year they ended on that cold run in the second half of the season, but it's still a roster that's just, I put them almost up there with anyone about as far as how complete they are. The defense got a little bit of an overhaul with investments in the secondary that were very much needed in their first round pick, Quinyon Mitchell, and their second round pick, Cooper DeJean. I know people will point to the loss of Jason Kelsey as being big, and of course it is a big loss to lose a Hall of Fame center, but they have a lot of depth at the offensive line, and they have a really good offensive line coach in Jeff Stoutland. And I just think that last year's collapse was more of a fluke. Jalen Hurts was hurt for a lot of last year. A lot of his mobility was taken away, and that's a crucial part of his game. I know running backs don't matter, but Saquon Barkley, I think, is going to be a productive pickup for them, especially after they took guys like Miles Sanders and DeAndre Swift that didn't have a ton of success other places, and they far exceeded expectations. I think we could see a big year for Barkley, a lot of weapons. Aside from Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert's as good of a big 3 as there is in the league, arguably. So I think this Philly team is super talented, and as long as they can fix the secondary, it's going to be a team that's in contention again.
Before we get into the next part of the episode, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors over at Pinnacle. Pinnacle is the world's sharpest sportsbook, offering competitive odds for 25 years. If you're looking to bet on the NFL, NBA, NCAA football, or any sport for that matter, you should have Pinnacle as one of your available outs. Bet smart, bet Pinnacle. Must be 19 plus, and please play responsibly. Wonderful. Okay, so that brings us to our next tier here. We got the playoff team tier. So you got 6 teams in this tier. List them out for us.
Okay, we got the Browns, the Dolphins, the Jets, Dallas Cowboys, Packers, and the LA Rams.
Okay, so usually whenever someone does these tier lists or tier ranking videos, there's always a team that you expect to make the playoffs that kind of really just vastly underperforms, whether it just be due to injury or bad variance, tough schedule, something like that. But then there's also a team that seems to vault themselves into the next year. So I'm going to ask you who you feel like from these 6 teams can vault themselves into that Super Bowl contender year during the season, and who do you think could potentially fall to a bubble team during the season?
I'm going to give you the same team for both of those questions. Okay. It's going to be the New York Jets. The ceiling, I see the theoretical ceiling in the Jets. You have a quarterback that is just 2 years removed off of back-to-back MVPs. He now has probably more weapons than he had that last year in Green Bay, or close to the same weapons, with Garrett Wilson being his Devontae Adams, Breece Hall being his Aaron Jones. You now have Mike Williams coming in, should be ready for week 1. So pretty similar to the setup in Green Bay. The offensive line on paper is above average, and the defense we know is probably going to be top 5. Now, the big question is, I said on paper, because Tyron Smith maybe doesn't stay healthy for the whole season on paper. Morgan Moses getting up there in age, maybe doesn't stay healthy the whole season. Mike Williams is coming off a big injury. And last but not least, Aaron Rodgers is now a 40-year-old quarterback coming off a torn Achilles. And his last full season in Green Bay, he was showing a little bit of signs of decline from those two MVP seasons. So maybe he just ends up being just a league average quarterback at age 40. I could see that being in the realm of possibilities. So I think that the Jets roster-wise, like if we just had a Madden roster, they'd be in the 90s. Like this is a good roster. But we're going to have to turn off injuries for that Madden franchise. And we're also going to have to turn off any aging for it. So I think that the Jets are just a super high variance team. And I could see them leaping up a category, or I could see them going down a category.
And it doesn't help that if like things are going bad, Nathaniel Hackett, who's kind of had like not great track record of being an offensive coordinator or like an offensive head coach, it's like you don't have something to fall back to.
And head GM Aaron Rodgers won't let them fire Nathaniel Hackett, so they're ride or die.
I mean, hey, if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, then maybe they can do it. And I heard ayahuasca does a wonder for the bodies. Anyways, let's move on to the next tier. We got the bubble teams. Got a bunch of teams here. You got 9 teams in this tier. So list off the bubble teams for us.
Jaguars, Chargers, Steelers, Colts, Falcons, Bears, Seahawks, Buccaneers, the Saints, and Minnesota Vikings.
All right. Well, one team that sticks out to me here, and it really sticks out to me, is the Atlanta Falcons. Because, of course, we've seen over the last, 3-4 seasons now, they've invested a ton into that offense. Their offensive line looked really good last year. Plenty of first round picks on offensive players who are going to play, even some that aren't going to play this year. And obviously, you go out and get Kirk Cousins to tie it all together. Why do you have Atlanta in this bubble team tier, and why don't you have them more so in that playoff team tier?
It's a 36-year-old quarterback coming off a torn Achilles, and from all reports, it was maybe a little bit more worse of an Achilles injury than Aaron Rodgers was. Different leg for Cousins. Lots of concerns on defense for Atlanta. It's a defense that probably roster rankings I would put bottom 4th of the league. Didn't do much to add to that defense. I know everybody said that they needed an edge rusher coming into the draft, and you end up taking a backup quarterback. And Kirk Cousins, like everyone's viewing him as like some type of savior. And like, don't get me wrong, he is, when fully healthy, he is above average quarterback. But I mean, this is a guy that's been a 500-ish quarterback for most of his career. So I'm just not ready to crown Atlanta, even as the prohibitive division favorite. Now, should they be the division favorite? Yes, but I think they're a little bit closer to New Orleans and Tampa than some people want to admit. They are better than those teams, in my opinion, but I think that they're a little bit closer to those teams than to the teams that are tier above them, even in their own conference, and the Cowboys, the Rams, and the Packers. Now, they have a similar win total. Like, they have a 9.5 win total compared to the Rams' 8.5 win total. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that Atlanta plays in the NFC South compared to the Rams playing in the NFC West, and just a tougher schedule. But yeah, I'd put them a little bit below those teams until proven otherwise.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, the floor. I hate to fall back to offensive coordinators here, but really, it's kind of their floor. We really don't know what Zach Robinson is going to be like for them. He could be very good. I mean, last year we know that they were kind of a disaster in play calling with Arthur Smith. And I mean, yeah, like Zach Robinson seemed to do some good things for the Rams, and it's a big question mark here. So it seems like everyone is always tantalized with that aging quarterback who comes in and says, who's maybe done it before or who's looked good in past. Doesn't mean they're going to be good at 36 when they were good at 30, right? So let's move on to the last 2 tiers. We have the rebuilding team, 6 teams in this tier. Why don't you list them off for us quickly here?
The Titans, Denver, Vegas, Arizona, the New York Giants, and Washington.
Okay, so the funny thing about this tier is when I look back, and we did another one of these videos last year, one of the teams we had in like the rebuilding phase was the Los Angeles Rams. And of course, like when you do a rankings list out in May, you're not going to get everything right. So who of these 6 teams do you think could be the quote unquote Rams this year where they vastly outperform their expectation?
Yeah, I don't love any of these 6, but if forced to take one, I'd probably take a rival in their own division in the Arizona Cardinals. And that is because the Cardinals have clearly the best quarterback of these 6 teams. Kyler Murray is probably, we'd say, a league average starting quarterback. And now he does have some pretty decent weapons. Trey McBride was one of the breakouts of last season. Marvin Harrison seems like a plug-and-play 1,000-yard receiver. They were able to run the ball pretty well last year, and although their defense has a lot of holes roster-wise, it is a coach that did it feels like seemingly overachieved last year with this Cardinals team. So a defensive head coach that overachieved with this team. So I could see it being Arizona, if anybody. But my ultimate prediction is I don't love any of these teams, but Arizona does play in the NFC, which is a bit more wide open than the AFC, and they have by far the best quarterback. So I would go with the Cardinals.
Yeah, and I don't expect you to like any of these teams. That's kind of why I asked you that question. I knew it would be a tough one. All right, the last 2 teams we have on the list are the teams that are, take your medicine here. It's like this is going to be our bumpy ride. Maybe just if you can press the fast forward button to 2025. The last 2 teams we have the New England Patriots and the Carolina Panthers. I have a question for you because recently on Twitter, some people were saying that they seem to like the New England win total towards their over. A prominent football figure, a prominent Twitter football figure, mentioned that he thinks that the New England Patriots could be a 6-7 win team. What are your thoughts on that in general?
Gun to head, I lean under on 5.5 on the Patriots. I thought that Cleve TA had a good tweet where he was just saying, it's underestimated. New England Patriots, their defense lost arguably the best defensive mind that the NFL has ever seen in Bill Belichick. I felt like he overachieved with their roster, to be honest with you, defensively. So I could see the defense taking a step back, and offensively, I mean, this offense is bottom 2, bottom 3. You're throwing a rookie quarterback in all likelihood at some point in the season into a position where he has what I think is the worst skill position players in the NFL with a bad offensive line. So that I don't got to say much more other than the fact that that's a terrible combination. And plus the fact that the schedule is super hard. Like you're playing in the AFC East where you're playing Buffalo, the Jets, and Miami. Like that is 6 tough games. And they didn't get a lot of favors with some of the other games on their schedule as well. They play the NFC West also. So it's I don't see it with New England. Now I didn't bet their season wins either way, but I would lean towards under 5.5 if forced to.
Yeah, it's tough sledding for the New England Patriots this year. And I mean, a friend of the show, Eric Eager, said this quite a bit, is that the loss, you could see how much the NFL regards the players on the New England Patriots when they went to free agency, those defensive players this year, when they went to free agency, and they seem to not be able to get any real good contracts. They came back to New England on a lot of cheaper deals. Because again, it seems like the NFL agrees with your statement, hey man, in the sense that Bill Belichick elevated that defense a lot more than people seem to realize in the public, at least. So anyways, that is our tier list here. I'm going to bring that up on screen and you can tell us exactly where we went wrong, who you feel like is too high, who you feel like is too low. Let us know in the comment section down below. And if you like the video, please press that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We got tons more football content coming to you throughout this off season. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you guys in the next one.